like 2 seconds, starting now. So I want to talk about our agenda. I want to go over the assessment that I'm giving you today. Again, really that's for evening out some of the grades. So some people towards the beginning of the semester marking period did not complete, did not do rewrites, things like that. So some of our quiz grades are kind of what's bringing us down. A lot of our classwork grades are doing really well because you guys have been here and you've been doing your work, which has been great. And it has been completion based. So today I want to kind of offer you some sort of an assessment that's just more of a critical thinking, engaging with the things that we've read so far, and give you a grade on that. And then workshopping those. We're not just going to I'm not just going to give it back and say that's it. But tomorrow we're going to look at them and really discuss kind of how we can start building ideas particularly for open-ended. As I pull this up, let me present. I am invited to an exclusive event, an AP Educators event. On Thursday night, some important man from AP is going to be presenting on the specifics for the AP test. It's all that information is going to be released to the public on Friday, but I'll be able to watch that on Thursday, give you guys some more information on Friday. But I'm assuming that it's going to be open-ended or prose. So we'll know more on Thursday. That will drive our lessons for the rest of our time together. But today we're going to review the assignment and then complete that assessment. And then you're going to watch part 3 of the AP Live session on longer fiction and drama. Today they're focusing on speaker or narrative perspective, which is something that we've talked a lot about. Part of your actual assignment today is really engaging with what they asked you to do yesterday. But before we do that, I want to talk about these key questions. And these are, I have this huge binder. Actually, I don't. It's at school, but I have a huge PDF of all of the Unit 1 through Unit 9 with the skills, the key questions. And I think we've looked at the skills. We've seen them on our charts. We've tracked them on that chart that used to be hanging on our wall. But we didn't really look at the key questions. So the skill that they were addressing yesterday is explain the function of a significant event or related set of significant events in a plot. And we've talked about this, what event acts as a casemate, I believe we talked about, and different things like how does the event of Pilot's death symbolize a theme or symbolize her as a whole, right? So we've talked about these things in general, but other ways that in these key questions or other ways that they might address this on the test. So what event in a plot has significant relationship to a character, conflict, or other event? And what is the relationship? I think Jasmine wrote down this question, how does one event have a significant effect on another event? How's an event in a plot a cause or effect of another event? Again, same idea. How does an event or related set of events cause, develop, or resolve a conflict? What can an event represent? How can an event represent competing value systems? How does an event create anticipation or suspense in a reader? And then how does an event or related set of events contribute to the meaning in the whole work? Okay, we love to think about how does one thing contribute to the meaning of a work as a whole. So I want to start bringing in more of these key questions. I'll have to find, I just screen grabbed this from their video, but I'll have to find the PDF or I might have a copy of the binder. We can start really addressing what are the key questions for each skill and how do we apply them to the things we've read. So I'll show you what the assessment looks like in a minute, but you are going to be looking at this question that they talked about yesterday. Novels, this is the kind of part 2 of your assignment. I'll show you part 1 in a minute. So it says novels and plays often include scenes of weddings, funerals, parties, and other social occasions. Such scenes may reveal the values of the characters and the society in which they live. Select a novel or play that includes such a scene and, in a focused essay, discuss the contribution the scene makes to the meaning of the work as a whole. You may choose a work from the list below. You're not. You're choosing one that we've read. So you're going to select a novel or play that we've read, write 2 or 3 claims about the significance of the scene. Of course, you're not summarizing, you're just discussing the relationship between that scene and the work as a whole. So right off the bat, are there any thoughts, if you want to write in the comment box or unmute, what are some significant scenes, weddings, funerals, parties, other social occasions that we've read from Lesson Before Dying to now?
Hagar's death.
Okay. Agreed. What else? Because I found it more difficult to pair this with Song of Solomon. I mean, I could make it work talking about Hagar, or maybe talking about something else, but really trying to stick to weddings, funerals, parties, or other social events, I had to go back into my arsenal of books we've read. What are some of those
Willie's
things?
funeral.
Huh?
Willie's funeral. Death for salesman.
Okay. Yeah. Agreed. Willie's funeral at the end was definitely something to think about.
Troy's funeral and
Yeah.
Fences.
When they all gather and the whole mood changes there in that last final act. What else? Anything from Lesson Before Dying? Any like social occasions that were really prominent in Lesson Before Dying? We don't really have a funeral. The execution's not a social event.
Mara said Finney's funeral.
Oh, I kind of forgot that we read Separate Peace. I mean, I was thinking about it this morning, but then I always forget it because it was something that you guys read over break. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely there as well. A lot of social occasions in that one as well. Like these ceremonies of them jumping off of this like tree you could technically like if that's the thing that comes to mind, you could make that into an essay that talks about how that scene, that the contribution of that scene contributes to something as a whole. I'm thinking also Lesson Before Dying, like that whole Christmas scene where the kids are performing that Christmas play, and it really shows the values of the society, right? We have like the kids and the essentially wrapped in potato sacks, like linens from the people's windows, that they're kind of all coming together, and then everyone comes, remember, to this play. So that's really a significant scene for the values of society, and that's something like pulling way back, but that was kind of what I originally thought, because that is a social occasion. So let me show you your assessment, and then I'll give you the time. So it's going to post as a assignment in Google Classroom, and it'll assign you a copy of this, so you can just type right into this. It should say like AP conflict work dash Jackie Gutierrez. So I want you to complete the chart that they had on the screen. They didn't really actually talk about it, but they had it here. If I revise this, I wonder if it will, hopefully it will revise for all of you. Because I listed the novels and plays that we read. I don't think I missed anything. Lesson Before Dying, Separate Peace, Fences, Death of a Salesman, Song of Solomon. Those are the ones that we've really dived into. I didn't include Candide. How does the plot structure highlight competing value systems? So how does it create this like conflict in value systems? I want you to either, if you obviously do both, if you can do both, but if you can only think of competing value systems, then do that one. Or if you can only think of suspension and anticipation, then do that one. Does that make sense? So like, must do one or the other below, but do both if possible. Right? I don't want to force you to be like, I don't know how the plot structure, or how like a particular set of events creates a competing value system, but I know how like in Lesson Before Dying, it created suspense and anticipation. We're like, is he going to die? Is he not going to die? Yada, yada. Then textual evidence is just like specific references, because you don't have a lot of these texts. And also on the open-ended, it's not worth it to go through and find specific quotes unless they're like thematic. So that's your first task, is to complete this chart. Are there any questions about the chart?
For just one novel, right?
I'm going to do all of them.
Oh, okay. Got it.
But like just doing one or the other in terms of either side, if you can't think of both. So like, for example, I would say the plot structure of Separate Peace creates some sort of anticipation. We have a visit at the very beginning in chapter 1, an old man revisiting his school, stopping by these significant locations, and then we jump in like 30 years prior. I don't know if it's 30 years, but jumping back in time to then bring us up to speed about like why is he revisiting and having these like emotions and feelings. So like that would be more of a suspense and anticipation. I don't know if there's competing value systems there. maybe like when it comes to war versus not war, but that's not really plot structure. So I need you to try to figure out for at least one for each one. Other questions about the chart?
Can we paraphrase evidence?
Yeah, specific, paraphrased. I just want you to say like, oh, you know, because it starts with a flash forward or starts with the present day and then the whole story is a flashback, like for a separate piece. That would be fine. I think like competing value systems will probably be a good one for Song of Solomon. Death of a Salesman, Fences. Those are all, we talked all about the values of the characters and how does the plot structure specifically affect that. So the second part is the assignment that we talked about in the slides. I have it here again for you. And then I just typed out what they said. So like claim 1, claim 2, and optional claim 3. So think about a significant event. How does that reveal the values of the characters and the society in which they live? That's a more challenging question. It's not right on the nose. You're going to have to kind of think about how we can apply it. Any questions about those? I haven't been looking at the chat, so I apologize because it's not on my phone. Yes, you can paraphrase evidence. Yeah, it was Finney's funeral. Jean was the survivor. Questions about that? And then I do want you to watch our live session at 12, but the task, instead of doing instead of taking notes, I want you to actually do the task that they talk about. So like yesterday's task would have been to complete, they wanted you to make a list of the novels that you read, and then they wanted you to answer the question that you're answering today, making the claims about that essay question from 1997. I know you'd rather take notes, but then like how we're going to structure it is like you'll do that today. I'll do it as well. Then tomorrow we're going to like discuss together live, go over our answers, really start building like this arsenal of information and examples and data for an open-ended if we need it. Because if we were in class together, we would be like literally like having a day where we're like, okay, all of the novels, let's write defensible claims about character. And like, then the next day, all of the novels, let's write defensible claims about conflict and pull a quote. So I want to start building that using their structure. So if we can complete their homework assignments that aren't very long, then we can kind of talk about that tomorrow in class. I won't have you submit it. I'll just have you do it. I just want you to do it to be prepared for class for tomorrow. Okay. Cool. And I'll post that again just to refresh, like, hey, watch it, do the assessment or the homework that they assign, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Any questions before you leave me? No questions? I know it's a good amount of work today. If you're done, you can leave, get started. You can